Welcome back to the Technology Risk Podcast. Today, we're going to be tackling something that's a bit of a double-edged sword for businesses, especially small and medium-sized ones. We're talking about the risks that come with emerging technologies.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tightrope walk, isn't it? These technologies offer incredible opportunities for growth and efficiency, but they also bring a whole new set of challenges that business owners need to be prepared for.
Exactly. The World Economic Forum predicts that by 2030, a whopping 50% of companies worldwide could face major disruptions because of these emerging technologies. That's a pretty sobering statistic.
It is, and it really highlights the need for businesses to get a handle on these emerging risks and figure out how to manage them effectively.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here to help you do. We'll unpack the most pressing risks, share some real-world examples, and give you actionable strategies to stay ahead of the curve. Oh, and before we get too far, don't forget to subscribe to the Technology Risk Podcast on Spotify and Apple Music so you never miss an episode.
Now, when we talk about emerging technology risks, one of the first things that comes to mind is artificial intelligence. AI has the potential to revolutionize so many industries, but it's not without its challenges.
Right. It seems like every day there's a new headline about AI, whether it's a breakthrough in medical research or a warning about potential job displacement. It's definitely a technology that's capturing everyone's attention.
It is. And one of the biggest concerns with AI right now is the lack of regulation. The technology is advancing so rapidly that laws and guidelines are struggling to keep up.
That makes sense. So without clear rules of the road, what kind of problems could this lead to for businesses?
Well, imagine an AI system being used for hiring decisions. If that system isn't designed properly, or if it's trained on biased data, you could end up with discriminatory hiring practices, even if it's unintentional. That could open up a company to legal challenges and reputational damage.
That's a scary thought. It's like we're handing over important decisions to machines without fully understanding how they're making those decisions.
That's the heart of the issue. AI is incredibly complex, and even the developers don't always fully grasp how these systems work. There's a degree of opacity that can make it difficult to assess risk and ensure fairness.
So it's not just about the technology itself, but also the ethics and potential biases that come with it.
Exactly. And it's not just about fairness either. AI systems themselves are vulnerable to security threats. Hackers are constantly looking for ways to exploit these systems, and the consequences could be disastrous.
Can you give us an example of what that might look like?
Absolutely. Think about a deepfake video of a CEO authorizing a fraudulent transaction. That kind of attack could be incredibly convincing and could easily fool employees or even customers.
It sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, but I guess that's the reality we're living in now.
It is. And as AI becomes more integrated into our lives, these kinds of threats are only going to become more sophisticated and more difficult to defend against.
So we need to be vigilant and aware of the potential risks, both from an ethical and a security standpoint.
When it comes to AI, what about quantum computing? That's another technology that's generating a lot of buzz.
It is, and while it has the potential to revolutionize everything from drug discovery to material science, quantum computing also poses a significant threat to data security.
How so?
Well, quantum computers are incredibly powerful. They can solve certain types of problems exponentially faster than traditional computers. And one of the things they could potentially crack is the encryption that we rely on today to protect our sensitive data.
So all those passwords, financial records, customer data, that we think is secure right now. Could be vulnerable.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Imagine a scenario where all the encrypted customer records, financial transactions, even government secrets that are considered secure today become completely open to attacks from quantum computers. It's a very real concern for businesses and governments alike.
That's a pretty unsettling thought. It seems like we need to start preparing for this quantum future now, even though it might feel like it's still a ways off. Absolutely. We need to start developing new quantum-resistant encryption methods to protect our data. And we need to start thinking about how to adapt our security practices to a world where quantum computers are a reality.
Okay, let's move on to another technology that's been making waves, blockchain. It's often touted for its transparency and security, but I'm curious if you see any risks there.
There are definitely risks. And ironically, one of the biggest risks stems from one of its perceived strengths: anonymity.
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. The same anonymity that makes blockchain attractive for things like privacy-focused transactions can also be exploited for fraudulent activities.
Can you give us an example of how that might play out in the real world?
Think about fake cryptocurrency investments targeting unsuspecting small business owners. These scams can be incredibly sophisticated and difficult to detect, especially for someone who's not deeply familiar with how blockchain works.
So a lack of understanding about blockchain itself can actually increase the risk for businesses.
Absolutely. If a business rushes to adopt blockchain without really understanding the technology, how to secure it, and how it integrates with their existing systems, they could end up with operational inefficiencies, security gaps, and even financial losses.
So it's all about careful implementation, education, and really understanding the technology before diving headfirst into the blockchain pool.
Exactly. Blockchain has a lot of potential benefits, but it's important to approach it with a cautious and informed mindset.
All right, let's shift gears and talk about the Internet of Things, or IoT for short.
Yes, the IoT. It seems like everything's connected these days, from our refrigerators to our cars to our thermostat.
I know, right? It's amazing how interconnected our world has become. But with all this connectivity comes increased risk, doesn't it?
It does. And one of the biggest risks with IoT is the expanded attack surface that it creates for businesses. The more devices you connect to your network, the more potential entry points there are for hackers.
So it's like having a house with 100 doors. The more doors you have, the harder it is to keep them all locked and secure.
That's a great analogy. And with IoT, those doors can be anything from a smart thermostat to a security camera to an employee's smartphone. Any one of those devices could be compromised and used to gain access to your network.
And once a hacker is inside your network, they can potentially access sensitive data, disrupt operations, and cause all sorts of havoc.
Exactly. And as more and more businesses adopt IoT devices, securing those devices and managing their access to the network is going to become absolutely crucial.
It's definitely something that businesses need to be thinking about, especially as the IoT landscape continues to evolve at such a rapid pace.
And let's not forget about the broader landscape of cyber threats that businesses are facing. These threats are constantly evolving and becoming more sophisticated.
You're absolutely right. It seems like every day there's a new story about a data breach or a ransomware attack. It's a lot to keep up with.
It is. And small and medium-sized businesses are often prime targets for these attacks because they may lack the resources and expertise that larger companies have to devote to cybersecurity.
So what are we seeing in terms of the types of cyber threats that are out there right now? What are the bad guys up to these days?
Well, we're seeing increasingly sophisticated ransomware attacks, where hackers encrypt a company's data and demand a ransom for its release. And in some cases, hackers are even using AI to tailor their attacks based on a company's specific vulnerabilities.
AI-powered cyber attacks. That's terrifying.
Okay.
It feels like we're constantly playing catch up with the bad guys.
It can feel that way, but it's important to remember that there are things businesses can do to protect themselves. It starts with understanding the threats and then implementing the right security measures and policies to mitigate those threats.
Absolutely. And that's what we'll be diving into in the next part of our show. We'll talk about how SMBs can build a proactive risk management strategy to not just survive, but thrive in this challenging landscape.
Welcome back to the Technology Risk Podcast.
We spent the first part of this episode talking about some of the big emerging technologies that are shaping the business landscape. Things like AI, quantum computing, blockchain, the IoT.
And we've touched on some of the potential risks that come with these technologies, things that could trip up businesses if they're not careful.
Right. But now we want to shift gears and get a little more practical. Let's talk about what businesses can actually do to manage these risks, to be proactive and to make sure they're not caught flat-footed.
Absolutely. Because knowledge without action is just, well, it's just knowledge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's start with the foundation of any good risk management strategy, and that's understanding your own vulnerabilities. This is where a technology risk assessment comes in.
It's like taking inventory. But instead of counting widgets or boxes, you're looking at your technology, your data, your people, and trying to figure out where the weak spots are.
So it's not just about the tech itself, but also about how people use it, how data is handled, and what processes are in place.
Right. Think of it like a checkup for your business. But instead of a doctor with a stethoscope, you've got a security expert with a magnifying glass looking for any cracks in your armor.
I like that visual. So what are some of the things that a business should be looking at during a technology risk assessment? Where do you even begin?
Well, you start by taking a good hard look at your current tech infrastructure. What systems do you have in place? How old are they? Are they up to date with the latest security patches? And how are you storing your data? Is it backed up? Is it encrypted? These are all basic questions, but they're crucial.
It's like checking the foundation of a house before you start remodeling the kitchen. You need to make sure the underlying structure is sound.
Exactly. And then you need to look at your security protocols. Do you have strong passwords? Do you use multi-factor authentication? Do you have a firewall in place? And do your employees understand the importance of cybersecurity? Are they trained to spot phishing scams or other social engineering tactics?
It's not just about having the right technology. It's about having the right mindset and the right training.
Right. And you also need to think about your incident response plan. What happens if you do experience a data breach or a cyber attack? Do you have a plan in place to contain the damage, to recover your data, and to communicate with your customers and stakeholders?
It's like having a fire drill. But for your technology, you hope you never have to use it.
Yeah.
But do you want to make sure everyone knows what to do?
Exactly. So a technology risk assessment really takes a holistic view of your business, and it helps you identify those areas where you might be vulnerable to attack.
Okay, so you've done your risk assessment and you've identified some areas where you need to improve. What's next?
Well, the next step is prioritization. You need to look at all the risks you've identified and decide which ones are the most critical, the ones that are most likely to happen, and that would have the biggest impact on your business if they did.
So it's not about trying to fix everything at once, but about focusing on the biggest threats first.
Exactly. It's about being strategic with your resources. You want to put your time, money, and effort into addressing those risks that pose the greatest threat to your business.
That makes sense. So you've assessed the risks, you've prioritized them. What's the next step in building a proactive risk management strategy?
The next step is building a culture of awareness and continuous learning within your organization. And this is where things get a little more nuanced. It's not just about buying the latest security software or putting up a firewall.
It's about getting everyone on the same page and understanding that cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility.
Exactly. You need to make sure that your employees understand the risks and that they know how to protect themselves and the company's data.
And how do you do that? How do you build that kind of culture within an organization?
Well, education is key. You need to provide regular training for your employees on things like password security, phishing scams, social engineering tactics, and the latest cybersecurity threats.
So it's not just a one-time thing, but an ongoing process of education and awareness building.
Exactly. Technology is constantly evolving, and so are the threats. So your training needs to keep pace with those changes.
That makes sense. But training is just one part of the equation, right?
Right. You also need to create an environment where employees feel comfortable recording security incidents or potential threats.
So it's about building a culture of trust and transparency.
Exactly. You want your employees to know that they can come forward without fear of reprisal if they see something suspicious or if they think they might have clicked on a malicious link.
Because the sooner you know about a potential problem, the sooner you can take steps to address it.
Exactly. And that can make all the difference in mitigating the damage from a cyber attack.
Okay, so you've got the awareness, you've got the training.
Yeah.
What about policies and procedures? How do you translate that awareness into concrete actions that can help protect the business?
That's a great question. And it's where things can get a little tricky, because you need to find a balance between security and usability.
Right. You don't want to make things so difficult for your employees that they start finding workarounds or cutting corners.
Exactly. So it's about finding that sweet spot where you have strong security measures in place, but they're not so burdensome that they hinder productivity.
So what are some examples of policies and procedures that businesses can implement to manage emerging technology risks?
Well, one of the most important things is to have a strong password policy. This means requiring employees to use strong, unique passwords for all of their work accounts and encouraging them to change those passwords regularly.
And what about things like multi-factor authentication? Is that something that businesses should be implementing?
Absolutely. Multi-factor authentication adds an extra layer of security by requiring users to provide 2 or more forms of identification before they can access an account.
So it's not just about knowing your password, but also about having something else, like a code from your phone or a fingerprint scan, to verify your identity.
Exactly. And it's become increasingly important as hackers have gotten more sophisticated in their attacks.
What about things like data encryption? Is that something that businesses should be considering?
Absolutely. Data encryption is a crucial way to protect sensitive information both in transit and at rest.
So whether it's customer data, financial records, or intellectual property, you want to make sure it's encrypted so that even if it falls into the wrong hands, it can't be read or used.
Exactly. And there are a lot of different encryption tools and technologies available these days, so businesses can choose the ones that best meet their needs and their budget.
It sounds like there's a lot to consider when it comes to developing policies and procedures for managing emerging technology risks.
There is. And it's not a one-size-fits-all proposition. Every business is different, and the right policies and procedures for one company might not be the right ones for another.
So it's about taking a tailored approach and really thinking about your specific needs and your specific risk profile.
Exactly. And it's an ongoing process. You need to constantly evaluate your policies and procedures, make adjustments as needed, and stay up to date with the latest threats and best practices.
It sounds like a lot of work,
Yeah.
but it's clearly essential for businesses that want to thrive in today's digital world.
It is work, but it's the kind of work that can pay off big time in the long run. By taking a proactive approach to risk management, businesses can protect themselves from potentially devastating attacks, safeguard their reputation, and build trust with their customers.
Welcome back to the Technology Risk Podcast.
In the last two parts, we've covered a lot of ground. From identifying the risks associated with emerging technologies to developing a solid risk management strategy.
But let's be honest, it can feel pretty overwhelming, especially for small and medium-sized businesses who might not have dedicated IT or security teams.
Absolutely. And that's why we want to dedicate this final part of our show to talking about resources and support systems that are out there for businesses who are navigating these challenges.
Because no one should feel like they have to go it alone.
Right. There's a whole ecosystem of organizations and individuals who are dedicated to helping businesses stay ahead of the curve when it comes to technology risk management.
So let's start with one of the most valuable resources out there, industry associations. What can these organizations offer to businesses, especially SMBs?
Industry associations are a goldmine of information and support. Many of them have dedicated groups or programs specifically for small and medium-sized businesses, and they offer a wide range of resources, from training programs and webinars to white papers and best practice guides.
So it's not just about networking and making connections, but also about accessing practical, actionable advice and guidance.
Exactly. And because these associations are focused on specific industries, they can provide insights and recommendations that are tailored to the unique challenges and risks that businesses in those industries face.
That makes a lot of sense. So if you're a small business owner, it's worth looking into the industry associations that are relevant to your business and seeing what they have to offer.
Absolutely. And don't overlook the resources that are available from government agencies and nonprofit organizations.
I think a lot of businesses might be surprised to learn how much help is out there from these sources.
They might be. There are a lot of government agencies, both at the federal and state level, that have programs and initiatives designed to help businesses improve their cybersecurity posture.
And what about nonprofits? What role do they play in this space?
Nonprofits are doing some amazing work in the area of cybersecurity awareness and education. They often offer free or low-cost training programs, workshops, and resources for businesses of all sizes.
So it's really about doing your research and finding the organizations that align with your needs and your budget.
Exactly. And don't forget about the power of local connections. Check out your local Chamber of Commerce, Small Business Development Center, or even co-working spaces. You might be surprised at the resources and support that are available right in your own backyard.
And for businesses that are really looking to immerse themselves in the tech world, there are also tech hubs and incubators.
Tech hubs and incubators are great places to connect with other entrepreneurs, mentors, and investors who are passionate about technology and innovation.
It's about finding your tribe and surrounding yourself with people who understand the challenges and opportunities of the digital age.
Exactly. And many of these hubs and incubators offer workshops, events, and programs that are specifically designed to help businesses grow and thrive in the tech world.
So as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave our listeners with a few key takeaways. First, don't be afraid to ask for help. There are so many resources and support systems out there, you don't have to go it alone.
Absolutely. And second, be proactive. The threat landscape is constantly evolving, so it's important to stay ahead of the curve by educating yourself and your employees, implementing strong security measures, and having a plan in place in case something goes wrong.
And finally, remember that managing technology risk is an ongoing process, not a one-time event.
It's about constantly evaluating your systems, your processes, and your vulnerabilities, and making adjustments as needed.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Technology Risk Podcast. We hope you found it informative and helpful.
If you did, be sure to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Music so you don't miss any future episodes. And until next time, stay safe and stay